I mean, you're gonna have your time adjustment will catch up, and by this next year, maybe you'll either have some ups or some downs. And actually, this will probably, was this used as a comparable then?
It must have been, let's see. Okay, yes.
So is it
Yes, this
comparable value?
fourplex. And what did we bring this into? Because we were adjusting quite a few fourplexes down.
We're going to see.
Come in at 705?
Yeah,
691?
705.
Yeah,
And,
I would take the opinion of value on it then, because they're using probably a rental income approach is what they're looking at.
Because they bought it vacant, so
Yep.
they don't have any sales data on it.
Yep. I'm okay with Jeff, if you want to make a motion on it then.
Just going with the appraisal.
I just go with the appraisal then right now, because they probably used an income-based approach.
Okay. Mr. Chair, on parcel RPRPBZ A000100, I make a motion that we accept the appellate's appraised value of $450,000 based on the attached appraisal.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Yeah, that wasn't that appraisal if you read. They used an income-based approach on it. So,
Simonson Stein, Colleen Family Trust. Comments on this one?
I'm willing to move for the repairs which she's talking about in the foundation.
yeah. I mean, if those are legitimate repairs that they had to make, and especially if it was in court, then that's different, yeah.
So if we go for,
And if they're corrected, then it would be the one time to cure.
yeah. So,
But the question, hold on, Jeff, I have a question though. So she said the builder was taken to court for all these repairs. That was in 1993 is when the house was built. So when were the repairs done? That was just, I went through that, I saw that, and I was like, wait a second, that's, you know what I mean?
Doesn't state. Let's see. So last year values. It's flatlined on everything in 17, 18, 19, basically. Correction in 20, 21.
And where was the $60,000, what's the $60,000 assessment? I mean, is that a contractor's assessment? Is that an engineer's assessment? Is that I just decided to write it down on a piece of paper because it sounded good
well,
assessment?
their square footage price is substantially lower than everything else.
So they've already factored that into the what's the condition listed on this house?
let me pull it up and prove out.
Everything else in the argument is just a tax argument. There's no, okay, I get that if there's,
I like the note on page 4.
yeah. I mean, there's no, this is a discussion about taxes, I have no evidence that shows that repairs were ever made, were ever bid, were ever done anything, and I don't have anything, okay, you took them to court. This house was built in 1993.
We have it in as average quality, average condition,
3?
and, yeah,
What happens if you moved it to a 2?
I am just seeing if we have any functional
Oh,
going
okay.
on,
Yeah.
and we don't. So if we moved it to 2,
I'm gonna hold steady on this one.
You good?
Yeah. I am reversing my initial thought.
Sorry, I just don't.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years without any adjustment.
Yep.
Because that's what they keep claiming is, well, we can't have an adjustment on our property because our property's not, our,
Well, I look at Zillow and Realtor.com and our assessment is below what they're telling me, so.
Motion?
Mr. Chair, on parcel RPRPSY 2000800, that we uphold the assessed value.
A motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next one is Keller. I guess 1, 2, 3, 4 properties. These are all land. And they doubled in value. .18, .13, .14, .14.
oh wait, hold on.
this one they upheld. Okay.
Okay, so what are they saying? They're saying property, okay, the first one is properties are to townhouse lots. Then our property tax exemption was left off or misevaluated. This exemption has been approved on the property for several years. This is a legal exemption per Idaho state and still in effect. The exemption on current value should be So the problem I have is the exemption that they're talking about is a component of real property that is a single-family dwelling. The following property is exempt from property taxes and for the purpose of this section. Business inventory means all items of tangible personal property or other property, including site improvements as described. All livestock, fur-bearing animals, fish, fowl, and bees. All nursery stock, stock to trade in, merchandise, products, finished or partially finished goods, raw materials, or other forest products subject to this provision. Idaho Code supplies containers, other personal property that is held. Residential improvements never occupied. Once residential improvements are occupied, this occupied as defined in section 63.317 Idaho Code, they shall be subject to tax provided in the same section. The provision of the section 63.602Y Idaho Code shall not apply to the exemption provided by this section. The exemption provided by this section applies only to improvements to real property and only until first occupied. For provision of this section, the term residential improvements means single-family residence or residential townhouses or residential condominium units.
So he's talking about, sounds like the developer's exemption, or the site improvement exemption.
Well, yeah, but how long has he had this?
Well, he, as long as he's the developer of it, and he does get it, he's getting it. As long as he hasn't improved it, and they changed the law recently, or before any type of improvement changed it, now, as long as it's still owned by the developer, even if it has a house on it, until that house is occupied, we can't take it off if it's the developer.
So is Keller the developer up here? He isn't, is he? And that isn't a
Killer.
75% discount, isn't the developer's 75?
Oh, is this different?
Yeah, it's 63602W is what they're
Okay, I know
citing.
what that is. Okay, so erase what I said. Sorry. Okay, so this is even harder to explain, but the homeowner's exemption, when it changed so that we have to allow it on the land, if it's an occupancy, if it's a brand new home and we know it's gonna be a brand new home,
Mhm.
we have gone out with the state's recommendation and put the homeowners on the bare ground so that we're not doing a cancellation on it like we did last year on bare ground when we,
Mhm.
and so what it's doing is saving the taxing districts at this point.
Mhm.
So that's what we're doing, and we've done that on a lot of bare ground that we know that we've gone out and know there's gonna be no home on there. If we don't know, then we're gonna have to still do a cancellation towards the end of the year. But on these, that's what we've tried to do.
So are these the original developers of this property? Because it says the original, it's, and even in here it said the people that developed, as I read that code, maybe I just misread that.
Right.
Let me go back and read that back.
Surprise Valley.
But on this, and I don't know if they're the developer, but on this particular exemption, it's the homeowners, it's not the site improvement. I was wrong.
So these are lots with building permits on it that we believe are going to be complete by the end of the year. As far as who the developer is on this, I don't know.
I can find out
So,
really quick.
hold on.
Okay.
So tell me what you want to do on these properties.
Hold on,
That land
hold on. Did they
was-
make application to the Board of County Commissioners by
They
April
don't.
15th?
They don't have to.
No, it says right here in this code under the section that they referenced, the application must be made to the Board of County Commissioners by April 15th, and the taxpayer and the county assessor must be notified.
We're talking two different
No, I'm
exemptions.
talking the exemptions they just put on their form that
Well,
they're
they're wrong
going to.
with what they put on there.
Well,
But
hey,
that's what they
but
put.
that's what they put on there. And hey, Anita, but I'm just saying,
I
if
know.
you're gonna argue this, and this is why you're saying you must be this, our job is not to go back and correct them. Our job is to take you made an assessment, and if they wanna make an incorrect argument, did they make an appointment or an application by April 15th?
I don't know, I'll have to make some phone calls and find out.
And that's just my question is I don't know if you're making an argument and your argument's wrong because you don't understand what you're talking about, then I'm
Right,
sorry.
yeah. I will step away and see if I can.
I mean, I don't know, in the case of this market value land, there's a balance of comparable sales about exemption value of 75% of market value of the land with site improvements shall be granted. So is there site improvements at all on this land?
Doesn't look like it.
There are site improvements, but they're new construction, so they won't go on until the buildings or the dwellings are completely complete.
How long have these been under construction for?
That's a good question. We have hundreds and hundreds of new building
They're
permit,
doing,
new
yeah, okay.
dwellings out.
I'm just, again, I'm okay, but just what they put in here, I'm just, as I read this section of code, I don't know what, you know?
I don't know what to do. I'll let Terrell.
I mean, I'm to the point where I'm like, I don't know what to, I'm just, but what Anita's saying on one price code and what their own argument, did they make exemption to us? Because it says we have to approve the exemption then.
Right. Which.
Did they make it, it says, title of the property or for purposes of this subsection, the amount of exemption shall be the difference between the market value of the land and the site improvements, and the market value of the land without site improvements shall be determined by the comparative market analysis for similar situated parcel or parcels of real property that have not been improved with such site improvements completed by this in the subsection. In the case of market value of land without site improvements cannot be reasonably assessed because of the absence of comparable sales. An exemption value of 75% of the market value of land with site improvements shall be granted to the parcel. An application is required for the exemption provided in this subsection in the first year the exemption is claimed. In subsequent consecutive years, no new application is required. The application must be resolved. So was an application put in the first year?
And this is definitely the developer's discount. They're wanting 75% off, and yes, I don't know
Okay, so
if there was
if they
an
had it last year,
application.
then the application would be, right?
Should be. 'Cause
Should be.
That's what this reads. It's on there until you start making the improvements.
Yes.
Which,
If they started construction, it came off.
No, it says until occupied. In the code, it says to
Oh, they
occupied.
changed that.
Oh, no, it just, yeah, it says,
It used to be as soon as they broke ground on something.
residential
Oh,
improvements
before.
never occupied. Once residential improvements are occupied, as defined in 317, they shall be subject to taxation provided.
Oh, okay.
So if you have a house that's done, it's received its certificate of occupancy,
Right.
it has not been titled and taken out. Now,
Yeah,
once you
in fact,
close on it, that's
The
occupied.
next,
Right,
the
right.
next paragraph down says, each unit shall lose the exemption provided in this section when it becomes occupied.
Yes.
When it's occupied, okay, 'cause
So that's the question then. If they're doing that, that's fine.
interpretation.
It's just the way that they've written their appeal is a little,
Okay.
And I think they're, might be a little confused with that homeowner's exemption, thinking it's the developer's discount when we've got it. But Anita will find out if they are the developer.
do we want
She's-
to,
that's
do we
what
just
she's
want
doing.
to hold this one then? Because I think this one will self-correct itself. This one shall resolve. Let me see how
How late in the day?
uncollege educated I can speak today.
How late in the day is it?
Do you want to, are you going to jump
Glad
in,
I'm not gonna be
Joshua?
the only one going.
Are you going to jump in on admins?
I would just hold it. I just table this one right now until we can,
Oh, I apologize.
No,
How
we
did they
just
already do that?
had some time and started.
we're
doing
starting some
admins.
admins.
Okay. Are you guys still doing the 3 o'clock ones? Or did you
Yes.
do those already?
Nope,
She's
nope,
done
3 o'clock, we're just getting close to doing.
Oh, yes, we're going to do them at 3 o'clock, sorry.
Okay, I got you.
So the only issue is putting that builder's
I probably
exemption
shouldn't
back
stay,
on
I'm
as
sorry.
well.
Oh,
So it goes
you're
back
fine.
last year's
I don't
value.
Yeah,
mind.
just go back last year,
So
sorry.
why don't we
Which
just
one
make
you
that
got?
And you
motion
might
together?
need my help tomorrow too,
You'll go.
because
Mr.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
We got an idea.
So they've already done some of them?
on parcels RPSUV 000500, 0600, 1100, and 1200, make a motion that we put all property values back to last year's value.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
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 That should be the exemption value, so.
All right,
Let's reset this.
go ahead and put it as a recess.